Inventory, one of our favorite subjects here. This is kind of a good chapter, so I hope you're enjoying it. We looked at one particular way of valuing or of keeping track of inventory, but there are two. There's perpetual and there's periodic. And the perpetual is almost like a real-time version of your inventory. You keep track of it as you add to and subtract from. Periodic looks at your inventory within one period, so you may add and subtract from inventory all month with purchases, and then at the end of the month, the period, you'll go out and calculate the inventory at the end of the period rather than throughout the period. Periodic is not as popular as it used to be, simply because it used to be a lot of work to keep track of the inventory on an ongoing basis, but now we have computers. So the majority of businesses are using a perpetual inventory system. On top of the way that you put inventory in and out, we look at how you cost that inventory when you sell it. It could be FIFO, which is first in, first out. LIFO, which is last in, last out, first out. It's literally what it says it is. Your cost comes from the first one that was put in and moves down. And it moves from the top. If it's last in, first out, that means that the last item that was put into the inventory, the cost of that is the cost that's used for the item sold. And the one that is really gaining favor, I think, and probably is most reflective of how inventory, or what the true value of your inventory is weighted average, which means when you'll start off with, let's say, an item that cost you $1 and you have 10 of them in. The next time you buy them, the cost has gone up to $2. So you would average that out by the cost. Let's say you bought one $1 one and then one $2 one. And so you now have two items that cost $3 that have an average cost of $1.50. So that's kind of what we're looking at in this chapter. So to begin, they ask us a couple of questions, and they give us a scenario, and they say Shepherd Cycles uses a FIFO method, and Shepherd Cycles plans to continue using the the FIFO method in the future years. And then they said, which inventory principle is most relevant to Shepherd's decision? Well, if you read in the book, and you should be able to pick that out relatively easily. They don't expect the prices to change dramatically, and wants to use a method that averages price changes, that averages it out. So then they would switch to what? That's question 2. So as you can see, how the economy is, or how the prices are changing, is a consideration on which valuation method you use for inventory. In most cases, you want to be consistent with what you do. I mean, in all cases, obviously, you want to be consistent in what you do, but sometimes you do have to make changes, and when you do that, you have to make that very transparent for the investors and for anybody who would be looking at your company and trying to compare income statements with another company similar to yours. So let's kind of move on. You'll find the answers here. Take your time at it. Think about them. Think of the ramifications of which method you use. And let's actually do some real-life figuring. So in 3, they talk about innovative cycles, and they use the first in, first out method. And innovation started in March with 10, and I started this out for you. 10 bicycles at $60 each, right here. with a total cost of $600. Now, that's not what you're going to sell them for. That's what it cost you, and that's what's in inventory. Then they bought 20 cycles on the 16th, and each of those cost $70. So that's relatively easy. You multiply 20 times 70, and now we've added 1,400 to the inventory. And we have a balance of, and then you would just pull these down. I'll show you this on the first one, and then we'll walk through the others. And we have 30 cycles, motorcycles, or some sort of part. I can imagine that you would buy, these are bicycles. So you have 30 here, and their total cost is $2,000. And that's the cost of your inventory at this time. So now, on March 31st, they sold 25 bicycles. So how much did those bicycles cost them? Well, if you're using FIFO, you have to take from the top now, and then work your way down. You're going to have to take 10 at 60. And how many did they sell? They sold 25 of them. And 15 out of the next layer here at 70. So now, if you multiply these out and add them up, it's going, and you'll put this in brackets because you're subtracting, right? So this would be 600, is that correct? 10 times, so that whole layer is gone. Oops. Would help if your instructor got in the right place, wouldn't it? So you've got that entire gone, and 15 times 70 is 1,050. So that one's gone. So you're going to subtract that from your 2,000, and your ending inventory is $350, which is comprised of 5. That's comprised out of this bottom layer here, right here. This is what's left. 5 at $70, which equals $350. These two right here, become your cost of goods sold on your income statement. So that's FIFO. Now, LIFO, okay, obviously is the same situation. You're going to have 10 at 60. You have 20 at 70 here. Yet now when you sell, let's show you what happens. So 20 at 70. It's going to be the same as this up here. So you've got the same scenario, and you have 2,000 left here, right? And you have a total of 30. Now when you sell, though, you're selling LIFO. So you start at the bottom and go up. So now I have a total of, gosh, I sold 25, is that correct? So I have to take 20 out of the bottom level and 5 out of the top, which is going to give you a totally different answer for your cost of goods sold and for what's deducted out of your inventory. And you take 5 out at 60. So this becomes 300. So your cost of goods sold now would be these two numbers combined, which is 1,700. And the amount left in is 300. So you can compare the differences in how you take cost out your inventory. FIFO, you'd have an inventory of 350. LIFO, you would have an inventory of 300. And what would this do to your income statement now when you compare those two cost of goods sold? Now, let's move down. I wish I could get these all on the same page for you to see. That's FIFO and LIFO. I believe we have one more, and it's average cost. And average cost is a perpetual. I mean, it literally is a perpetual. You now have 10 at 60. You buy 20 at 70, which is going to give you $1,400. That's not going to change, right? This becomes $2,000. But something does change here now. You have 30, and each one of those are now going to, it makes a difference. You're going to average those. So what you end up having is a difference of, you have a difference of, how do I want to put this? This is 2,000. And I put it in the wrong place, I'm sorry. This goes here. Now, if I divide 2,000 by 30, I will come out with the average cost, which would go here. And that amounts to 66.67. So now, when I sell, okay, I'm going to sell 25 of them. I'm not worrying about first in, first out, last in, first out. I already have the unit cost right here. So you have 25 times 66.67, and then that's deducted from the inventory. And I think that total is 1,667. And that becomes your cost of goods sold, and your inventory is 330. Now, if you look at all three of these, there's a difference. Not much, because we're not dealing with a great deal of product here, but there's a difference. This has a cost of goods sold of $1,667. This one has a cost of goods sold of $1,700. And this one has a cost of goods sold of $1,650. So all three of them have a different cost of goods sold and obviously a different ending balance. So that's how you do the first in, first out. And now we're going to move on, and I'm not going to be quite as explicit as I have been with this one, but I will kind of explain things as we go through so that you can catch the nuances between the methods of valuing the inventory.